starting on, let me address the Kaduna killings. And Rufai, I recall that yesterday during the newspaper headline stories, it made headline on Daily Trust, and you put a lot of attention on that. And again, during What's Trending, we're able to talk about the very, just touched on it very quickly, the sad occurrence in Narindon, in Kauru local government area in southern Kaduna that happened on Monday overnight. Now, the president has released a statement through his spokesperson, Mr. Bayo Onanuga, condemning the killings and talking tough around the response of his administration to violence in southern Kaduna, saying that recent attacks would not erode the progress that has been made in that region. We know that this is not the first time. Southern Kaduna, especially Kauru local government, is quite notorious for these kinds of unprovoked attacks. I say that unprovoked because some, might be saying, oh, is it this or that? Unprovoked. According to eyewitness report, some assailants came in around 12:40 a.m. In the morning of Monday, and they attacked this community, killing women, children. And for pictures and footage from the assault, from what has been termed one of the deadliest attacks in recent times in that area, is not fit for our TV screen. It is quite a terrible situation. Let me paint a picture, because when we hear of 1 to 30 people dying in a community, we as a people must not become sensitized to this. If we complain about South Africans killing Nigerians on their home soil, then we should be even more concerned about Nigerians dying in their own home. 30 people, children. In fact, there's a situation of a family losing 5 of their children in that attack. 5 siblings from the same family. We have Deborah, Friday, Yusuf, Yunana, Irimaya, and Emmanuel from the Emmanuel family losing their lives. Their parents were able to flee that situation. What is curious about this case, based on the reports that have come out of that of Kauru, is that number one, the operation lasted with assailants coming in with sophisticated weapons in the middle of the night. Number two, the operation lasted for about 3 hours. Number three, when a distress call was put out to security operatives, they came after the assailant had left. So they had 3 hours of a reign of terror without any immediate response from security operatives. I believe that the Southern Kaduna People's Union have written an open letter to the Commissioner of Police in Kaduna State asking for intervention, especially deploying more personnel to these areas that historically has been termed as being volatile and have experienced a number of these kinds of attacks. And so it beggars belief why we did not have security presence in that area that is known to be vulnerable to these attacks. That's number one. Number two is that when, they keep saying, oh, and even in the president's speech, if you see something, say something. When you do say something, why is it that action is not taken enough to build confidence in the people? In fact, it was said that when there was no response from security operatives, the people had to flee for their own lives. And this is what we have: communities that have been deserted, that have been left vacant because people have found that they cannot be helped. They have made calls for a solution, and yet again and again the government has failed them. And this is what I want to raise this morning, that why is it difficult to secure these people? And let me just give a bit of context to this. We know that in Kaduna, there's a southern part and the northern part. Historically, there have been clashes, and we've had the farmer-herder clashes, we've had the clashes and attacks on Christians in the southern part of Kaduna. I bring this up because we are still in the position where we're still arguing about whether or not we protect the most vulnerable in societies. This one, I give it up to the Kaduna State Governor Sani, who has made efforts, which was not the case in the previous administration, to bring the people together, to ensure that everybody in Kaduna, irrespective of ethnicity, irrespective of religious background, feels included and feels protected. His latest move in moving away from a Muslim ticket demonstrates that as well, because that is fairness, equity, but not sacrificing competence. So you can have competent people who are able to still represent people and ensure that there's a sense of representation for everybody in Kaduna State. Kaduna does not belong to a particular ethnic group or a particular religious sect, and this must be emphasized. Having said that, Rufai, when we were reading the news, you said Monarch-in-Chief. And I said, I thought he was the commander-in-chief. Is that we shouldn't get to a point whereby what we are hearing from the commander-in-chief is, I mourn with you, I condemn. Beyond condemnation, yes, they enumerated the many areas in which there have been security interventions, but obviously it's clearly not enough. Obviously it's not addressing the challenges. Obviously we're seeing new cases. So it means that whatever has been deployed is not anywhere near enough. And so there must be, almost sound like a broken record, more boots on ground. Yes, they've increased the division, so we would have more oversight, quicker responses. This hasn't come into operation yet. We're seeing the first phase in September. Perhaps when this comes into operation, we'll see better and quicker responses from our military and, well, the police as well, who are actually responsible for internal security. Number two is that we must have a situation where there's a resolution that is not kinetic, but we can also have community interventions. There is tension between communities in Kaduna State that has to be addressed. And so we cannot continue to come up and, talk about news and make condemnations and mourn with the people and even release statements through political spokesperson. The president himself needs to speak to his people occasionally, especially giving an update on security efforts by his administration. He's the one that has the mandate of the people, not his presidential spokesperson, with all due respect. They can release statements, but it's important that once in a while. The last time we heard from the president was through the nation's address on Democracy Day. When last did he have an interview? When last did he give a security update to the people who are suffering, who are crying, who are mourning on a consistent level? I dedicate this morning just to speak about the security situation, because if we don't address this, we cannot have politics, we cannot have elections, we cannot talk about other matters if we do not have the number one fundamental responsibility of the president, which is the security of lives and property. Rufai.
I just even want to add, Ayo, please, I beg all the candidates in the next election, please, all of you, please, I beg you, debate. We need a debate.
Yes.
It's not the one that some people will not attend. I beg, we need a debate. It's not the one some people will feel too big to be able to be debating in front of the Nigerian people. I'm begging. It has gotten to that point. We need a debate where people can articulate their ideas. As regards what has happened, there's a pattern. I don't think marching orders are good enough. Because in a case where you've been able to establish a pattern, marching order becomes mere rhetoric. Naridon and Kamaru Ward are bordering Riyom local government area. They are in Kaduna, but they border Riyom in Jos. And this has been a constant space for attacks. These attacks span over a time. In fact, this time last year, such a thing happened. I am sure that they released statements to say we commiserate with people, and I'm sure that they said it will not happen again. But a year after, it has happened again. But let me read the timeline to you. In November 13, 2016, in Kauru local government area, earlier wave of border violence, 12 people were killed. April 19, 2020, Kauru, government attack killing 4 people. July 2025, Naridon was hit. An attack happened exactly 1 year ago. Kamaru Ward, gunmen attack, August 24, 2025. June 16, Onwanji Magaji community, Kamaru Ward. Just a month prior, there was an attack. Then, 26 to 27, the massacre. I know as I say that word, now some people will say don't say it because they can't stand the word massacre. It's in Nigeria that when 30 people are killed, they say don't say people died. It's not massacre. Just like how they keep telling us that nobody died in NSAS, nobody died. So Ayo, nobody died. In fact, the corpses people said they saw, the people that was on DJ Switch video, it's a lie. It didn't happen. They like to gaslight us a lot. They think we are fools. So please, did anybody die in Kaduna? Nobody died. Nobody died. That's the hypocrisy of the country we live in. So if I've been able to read out a chronological order as we speak, and nothing has been done, can you honestly, watching me today, tell me? I know I can't see you, but you are watching me. Can you honestly tell me that an attack will not happen in Narodon again next year? Can you honestly tell me, you watching me, can you tell me that an attack will not happen? I have given you a chronological order of how this attack have happened constantly and nothing has been done. This time last year, an attack happened there, nothing was done. Look at Jos. When the attack happened, they said it will be the last. Since they said it will be the last, hundreds of people have been killed in Jos. So can you honestly watch me today and tell me it's not going to happen again? You and I know it's going to happen again. The question we should ask is, when next will it happen? And how will it happen? But I think the part we should ask the government is, at least with the security forces not come after the next attack. Because it's a pattern. I'm not saying the security forces do not do well. They do well. They bust on attack. We are grateful to them. But it's now become a pattern that it is always after the attack they come. If you ask me what are my chronological facts, I will take you to a place in Kwara called Woro. It was after the attack they came there. So can we at least meet them in the attack and save lives? That's a food for thought. But you watching me, can you honestly tell me that we will not hear another attack in Kaduna? You know you can't. My second point this morning. I'm hearing talk about INEC being transparent, right? Yes. Is it the same INEC that was quick to rush in the case of Nafiu Balagombe? Is it the same INEC that people keep asking, extend registration? No. Is it the same INEC that one of their members of staff leak a document about a political figure to another political aide? Anyway, the case is in court now. I don't want to talk too much about it. They started their defense. And today, INEC has not been able to purge itself. Is it the same INEC that it is one loophole or the other? Is it the same INEC that has not told us if they've recovered what they claim that was stolen in Odwort, in the PVC? You know, as of today now, they will say we should not talk about that case again. Ayo, you know why? Those PVC that were stolen will find their way to elections in Osun State. But today, they've not even accounted for the number of PVCs. As INEC even come out to tell us the number of PVCs, what move have they made to say, okay, those are the PVC was stolen, let's now re-give them so that we will not disenfranchise them? So we don't see anything. So, and now you are coming to tell us that INEC is this, INEC is that. No. You see, it is not for people to tell us to believe something. It is from our own perception. We will now make up our belief system. Like I say, I don't have confidence in INEC, and I'm sorry to say it. And I want to be proven wrong. I think this forthcoming Osun election will start to open our eyes to a lot of things. But I pray they prove me wrong. I pray and fast. Me, I don't have confidence in INEC. So it's not a case of trying to do this or trying to do that. I do not have any level of both implicit and explicit confidence in INEC as we speak today. I yield the floor.
Very quickly, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has condemned the killings in Kamaru Ward in Kauru local government area of Kaduna State, where 30 persons were killed. Overnight, the people were asleep. They were killed in their sleep. Their houses were razed down. It sounds like a familiar story. just as the president's response also appears, familiar, and if I dare say, formulaic, to the extent that, well, he has commiserated with the people that died. We also all commiserate with the people that died. He has said, well, the security agencies have been given marching orders to bring the perpetrators to book or to justice. Again, this is what we hear all the time. The president used the opportunity to say that his government is committed to fighting insecurity and making sure that acts of terror no longer occur. We have evidence in that regard. His partnership with the United States, the state police idea, the idea of recruiting forest guards, the idea of expanding the divisions of the Nigerian army and recruiting 28,000 more soldiers, which will bring, our army strength to about 250,000. If you add the about 80,000 or so of able-bodied reserve soldiers who have retired but are not tired, so you have about 3,000, troops that can serve Nigeria. So we have seen that too. But the issue is, the president made the point that it was unprovoked terror. I don't understand that title, which I read in one of the newspapers. Unprovoked terror. Is there any terror that should be provoked at all? The primary responsibility of government is to ensure that people are safe. So you can't blame the citizen. You can't blame the victim if you say, oh, certain categories of terror are provoked, either by any act of omission or commission. The job of government is to make this environment safe for everybody. However, the president also met with the Catholic Bishops' Conference, and it was that occasion that he spoke about, among other things, about mission schools, the possible return of mission schools, which I think was the Catholic bishops tabling that before him. But the more major point that he made is that INEC is very neutral, and that INEC has not intimidated anybody, and that all is fair in politics. All is fair in politics. Well, as in love, and I get as in war. But what we as Nigerians are asking for is that there should be fair play. We should not have a political process where people just use any kind of trick to fight. But the president, of course, made it very clear that he is ready, and he's also ready to take on the opposition. And that if the opposition has any problem, it is not with him. It must be with their own shadows that they have problems with, or the uncertainty surrounding the companies that they keep. Well, that looks like a statement of confidence. But the residual point is to say that the president of Nigeria has the primary responsibility to make sure that this electoral process is free, fair, and credible. It is his assignment as a man who is in the saddle. And, he's not in a position to even defend INEC. INEC is not serving him alone. INEC is serving all of us, including the gladiators in the business. And it is up to us to give INEC either a pass mark or a fail mark. And that then means that INEC also is expected to live up to its mandate and responsibilities. Very quickly, still on security matters, let me go to Oyo State. President, I keep calling him president. Maybe it's a prayer for him. He's still young enough, he can be president someday. Governor Seyi Makinde, who has now acquired 2 surveillance aircraft. These aircraft, they are called Diamond DA4N2, I think, something like that. N2MG. And they are said to be fuel efficient. They have sensors. They have optical capacity. They can be in the air for up to 8 and 10 hours just for surveillance. And the governor said the reason he has done this is because of the landmass in Oyo State, and now the increasing threat of kidnapping and abduction in Oyo State. And he said the plan to get this aircraft had been there even before the Orire incident. And there are some people who are saying, oh, it's because of the Orire incident. He said no. The agreement had been in place, and now the aircraft have arrived. Big landmass. And then problems, particularly in the northern part of Oyo State, what they call the Okeogun area, Kashi, Okehu, Shaki, yes, I think it's called Shaki, Kishi, all of those areas are particularly vulnerable. So This is a welcome development, I think, and now that we're talking about state police, other state governments can emulate the example of your state, because these are standing assets that will be useful. And the fact that there is a memorandum of understanding with the Nigerian Air Force means that, the management of those two aircraft will not be subjected to unnecessary bureaucracy. So it will also guarantee sustainability. So we want to commend Governor Seyi Makinde, but of course the opposition will be interested in the procurement process. Was it bought at the right value? How much did it cost the people of Oyo State? But the people of Oyo State, either in the Okegu area or elsewhere, will measure the value of that in terms of the impact, in terms of security of lives and property in Oyo State. Now, to go to the big subject of the day, which is the Court of Appeal overturning the decision of the Court of Justice Peter Lifu. I think the interesting thing about that judgment is in the details. The Court of Appeal simply dismissed the June 15 ruling of Justice Peter Lifu's court, which deregistered 4 political parties: the ADC, the APP, the AA, and the ZLP, and the Accord Party. Now, if you look at that judgment, their lordships are emphasizing the rule of law, the supremacy of the rule of law. That the trial judge, arrived at his judgment in error and in a perverse manner. The court was accused of manufacturing evidence that was not before it. In other words, going on a voyage of his own, acting like a Father Christmas, which is not part of the duty of a court of law. 2, that he disregarded conduct evidence by the INEC that these affected political parties had already met the conditions, the requirements for proper registration. 3, that Section 225A was more or less misinterpreted, that it should be read disjunctively, not conjunctively. So that's the Court of Appeal giving a smart class, a lesson in the interpretation of the Constitution. Now, also the incorporated trustees of former legislators and all of that instituted the case, plaintiffs in the matter, they were told had no local standing. 5, it was also pointed out that there was a subsisting judgment of a Court of Appeal, which Justice Peter Lifu just disregarded. Now, this is not the first time judges at the level of the Federal High Court in Abuja have been, sanctioned heavily. Well, not sanctioned, reprimanded heavily by the Court of Appeal. But some informed commentators have asked the question, what happens next? These judges seem to get away with it, particularly at the level of the Federal High Court. But the important thing, finally, is that the ADC now is very confident that it will be part of the 2027 process, having secured another judgment that said, the David Mark faction is a legitimate faction. And now, also, the rule of law is emphasized. In Osun State, I understand that some of the contenders in the election, in the August 15 election, have been saying there is no goalpost in the Osun election. Now, for those persons, may they now be reminded that the goalkeeper in the August 15 gubernatorial in Osun State is the rule of law. And we hope that all parties concerned in Osun State, will respect the rule of law. On that subject, the other point to make, of course, is that the Court of Appeal now has now set a principle that there should be a level playing field and that all opinions should be allowed to play and that there should be, inclusion, robustness in the political process, and that is the Nigerian people that should make the choice, not a court of law manufacturing evidence in favor of one of the litigants. Finally, I think you mentioned the Kaduna State, where you say that Governor Uba Sani has now picked a Christian as his running mate for the 2027 general election. This is instructive on 2 levels. 1, The people of Southern Kaduna, as articulated by Sokapu, which is their union, and as we have also seen in terms of the attacks in that part of Kaduna State, feel marginalized. And they felt so marginalized under the previous administration, that's the Nasir El-Rufai administration, when people of Southern Kaduna felt that they were under siege. The difference under Sani as governor is that he has been able to make peace with the people of Southern Kaduna.